Hello, I am Edith Newmeyer, and I am the author of the book, The Mystery of Adam. Now, I thought maybe today would be the last one I'm going to do on the section of the church, but um, I think I have to add one more. Okay, so today I will be talking about a little more about Paul and his crazy ideas sometimes. Um, and then next time I will talk about one more important part of the church, and that is that the church is the temple of the living God. Temple. Now, Paul used body, okay? He used the analogy of body. But God's intention was temple. He said that we are the temple of the living God. Now, the Jews are crazy about building the third temple because they still not getting it. That God's intention was to build a temple of living stones. We are the living stones that he wanted to build on. Um, well, maybe I should be just talking about that today. Anyways, um, God wanted to live with humankind by indwelling them. And that's what the Holy Spirit did. So God's intention was always to have a living temple. And the temple that the Israelites had, which was a tent, was just a temporary, and it was only a reflection or a symbol of God's intention that he wanted to build. And we know that from David. David wanted to build a temple for God or a house for God. And God said to him clearly, he said, I don't want you to build a temple for me because you have too much blood on your hands. But one of your descendants will build, one of your sons or your descendants will build a temple for me. And he clearly had in mind Jesus when he talked about that descendant. Now, David, he did not want to really listen to God. He had in mind still to build a temple for God. So he assumed that this descendant would be one of his sons, one of his biological sons, like, of course, Solomon. But God had clearly in mind that it was Jesus Christ, the Messiah, that the Messiah will come as a descendant of David and that he will build the temple, okay, or the house of God. And so the the Israelites or the Jews, they really never got it. They just didn't. And so even today, they are not getting it. They don't understand that God has no interest in a house. God said it so many times. He said, "Where should I put my feet? I mean, where should I live?" He did not want David or any of his sons to build a house. He kind of tolerated it, but that was not his purpose. His purpose was to actually build a house of living stones. And these living stones are we. Every member of the church is that living stone, with Christ being the cornerstone or the major stone. Okay? And we are built into the temple of God. We are the house of God. God dwells in us. The Holy Spirit dwells in us. So that is what God's intention was, that he will build his temple, okay, a house amongst human beings. Now, my next book will focus more on that, and it will be it will be probably called the mystery um, of the second Adam, who's Jesus Christ. And so that'll be an interesting one because it talks very, very much about this relationship between the bridegroom and the bride. The bridegroom coming to prepare the bride and to bring the bride back into the fellowship of God. And again, having this marriage relationship that God had intended for humankind. And again, also to build that temple. And of course, the Jews are still ready to build the third temple. And it is really abomination. To build that temple would already be an abomination because they're not getting it. They're still trying to build a temple even after Christ already started building his temple. Okay, after Christ, who is supposed to be the one that is building the temple, has already started building the temple, and they're not seeing it, and they are blind. And that's why I'm saying that third temple will absolutely be abomination. Okay, that alone will be the abomination when people start building that temple, because they're just totally in rebellion. They would be in an absolute rebellion against God, and when they do that, they start the sacrifice again. Can you imagine? Christ already fulfilled the ultimate sacrifice, and here they are, they're building a temple and start sacrificing it. Can you imagine what that statement would do? I mean, that is pure rebellion. So, yeah, I think that is an important subject to actually bring up. We have been lied to so many times. And I think we need to learn the truth. Now, I don't have it in my brain exactly. It is in, I'm thinking, where did God say that? Either Chronicles. It's very likely that is in Chronicles, where First or Second Samuel could be actually too, where God told David that he is not going to be the one to build the temple. And I'm looking at it right now. Maybe I can find it, but it's going to be very hard because I don't have it in my head right now. I can look it up and maybe bring it up next time. But yeah, I think that's a very, very important, a very important section that I should have been adding, or that I'm going to add with my videos, which I don't have in my book, is this temple idea that we are the temple of God. It's interestingly, when you look at the temple, the tent, or the temple too, is that there were two parts: the holiest and the holy of holies. So there's two sections, and the holy of holies is assigned really to only the priest, the high priest, once a year. And so that section, of course, is the section that Jesus Christ is filling. And then we are in the holy place. And of course, the section was divided by a big curtain. And when Christ died, that curtain was ripped. So we had access to the Holy of Holies. Okay? We all had. So there was no more division between the two rooms in that temple. Still, we are the body. Okay? which is the larger section, and then the Holy of Holies is that section that belongs, of course, to the head, which is Jesus. And then the whole thing together, the whole temple together, is the temple of God. And for me, that's really interesting. And yeah, you can look that up. It's very easy. I could probably look it up here on my computer. Just type it in, and you will find the section where God says to David, nope, you are not going to build a temple. It's going to be somebody who is one of your descendants. But it was not Solomon. Solomon was not supposed to be the person building it either. It was clearly describing Jesus, because Jesus is the only person who is really the Son of God, not a David, not a Solomon, especially not Solomon. Solomon, later on in his life, totally rebelled against God, and he devoted himself to the occult and to controlling demons. So I don't think that Solomon was the one that was chosen by God to do such a work. No, it was Messiah himself. So anyways, I'll do a small section today, and then next time I will finish up and talk just one more section on the church. And well, I'm going to be really coming down hard on Paul next time. So I just already want to tell you that right now, because I think Paul sometimes brought in some things that just really confused things very much, and it, you know, taking it by the wrong people, it kept women in bondage for 2,000 years. And somebody needs to stand up and set this guy straight. I know that Paul was filled with the Holy Spirit, but not all the time. He was just a regular human being, like all of us. And some of the things he said were just extremely stuck in his culture, and very, very stuck in Talmud, very much. I mean, he was a rabbi, which is understandable, and so he was trained in Talmud, and he continued, Talmud. He thought Talmud was, I don't know, it's great interpretations or something, but that wasn't the case. So, anyways, I will finish up for today. And yeah, look it up. You can look it up yourself. It's somewhere either in First Samuel, at the end, or close to the end of David's life. In my new book, I will talk a lot more about all this craziness with David. Now, David was a man of God, and he was kind of a type of Messiah. But like I said already, he chose for some reason, again, not his firstborn, even though he wanted that, but he chose his lastborn. I believe Solomon was his lastborn too, by Bathsheba. And that is an interesting story in itself. So my next book will have some interesting stories about Solomon and David, which are still being, these things are still being interpreted wrong today by the Jews and by the Christians. So I will close for today, and then next week or next time, I will pick up more and kind of finish up this section on the church, and then I will move towards marriage. In my book, I have marriage first, and then the heavenly marriage, which is Christ and the bride. All right, I will talk to you later. Keep studying.